Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, and it is a text that really helps us live what I like to say is a reasonable life, or a more reasonable life. So every step of the way, every aspect of our life, no matter where we're starting, we could be starting in a position where we are totally the victim of the world and an addict and hurting ourselves and not doing anything good in our life, quote unquote, good in our life. And we could pick up the Tao Te Ching and we can start there, and we can just with any sort of modicum of attempt to understand what it is trying to tell us, we can move into a better position. We can put ourselves we can live a more reasonable life. It's one of the great things about the Tao Te Ching. You don't have to know anything about it in order to start benefiting from it. The Tao itself says if you don't know anything about it, you're still benefiting from it. And so it's wonderful to be able to pick up the Tao and just look at it and see what it has to say, see what it has for you. What is it? What stands out to you? And what can you do right now to live in just a little bit more in accordance with Tao, in alignment with Tao? So Tao of the Day is a program that I've been doing for quite some time on different social media platforms. And I started doing this on this app, which was Wisdom and is now Noom Vibe. And what I ask is that you come up, let's have a little chat, you and I, just about what's going on in your life. We'll create a baseline of like what we want to, what we're focused on, what we're looking at in our life. And then I'll ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81. The reason that we pick between 1 and 81 is because there are 81 verses in the Tao, 81 chapters or 81 Taos or 81 meditations, whatever, however we want to look at them. There's 81. And so I'll ask you to pick a number. And once you pick a number, we'll go ahead and read it. They're no more than, like, the longest one is 250 words. So they're not really that long. I'll read through it. We'll talk about what your thoughts are, and then we'll go through it line by line and see if we can glean any more information from what that Tao is saying. And if I can, I'll try and connect it back to what's going on in your life and how you might be able to utilize this Tao that you chose to approach or to look at what else is, to all the things that are kind of going on in your life. So that's what Tao of the Day is. I want to thank you for joining me. If nobody's going to join me right off the bat, I'll go ahead and pick a number. I'll just kind of take a deep breath. So let me tell you maybe what's going on in my life. I just had a couple dreams that were really interesting. One, I was returning something from my neighbor. My neighbor's been helping me kind of fix my house. I was returning something. I don't remember what it was. And he was mowing his lawn. Yesterday I mowed my lawn. And sometimes he'll come out and be like, "Oh, you're the troublemaker, making me look bad because I mowed my lawn before him," or whatever. So there was that, and then I had another dream. It was really interesting, where I was at an event or a party or something, and an old friend of mine, Celeste, was there, and I picked her up, and we were, for whatever reason, I carried her, and as I was putting her down, my hand like touched her breast, and she looked at me really sort of sternly, and I was just like, "Whoa, I didn't. That wasn't intentional at all," and then. And then for some reason I needed to deal with some water, and water was being controlled by switches instead of like, and I guess there's a lot of water in my house, other things like that. I don't know what to think about those, but that happened. And today I'll be working with a local university and their graduation. So I'm going to pick number 57. Laws are all in the heart. And if anybody wants to come up, please just step up on stage and I'll bring you up and we'll have a little conversation. But I'm going to start with 57 laws are all in the heart. Tao governs all things by discarding objectives, never possessing or interfering. All things only need to abide the law in their heart. In this way, they are free from desire. When Tao is ignored, objectives rule the day. Rules are created by those. Nope. Rules are created that make people expend energy to get around them. Intelligence is praised and rewarded while products become more demonic and intrusive. Weapons are paraded, fear spreads, and the hearts of all things close off. As litigation becomes a national focus, politicians and criminals multiply. The master needn't engage these traps. She is quiet and people follow their light. She is peaceful and people are compelled to be honest. She does nothing and all things flourish together. Have no desire and all things will achieve primal existence. I couldn't help but think about Trump this morning while reading this and his verdict. You know, I did a Recover Yourself episode about Trump when he was leaving office, about how I felt like he was under the influence. I felt like he was coming from a position of an addict, and how if we looked at addiction from a broader perspective, we might have been able to help him more than be a support his addiction and continue to they call people that, I forget the word just offhand. You're it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it. You support someone's addiction and all of that. Shelly's going to join me. Maybe she knows the word, or we're going to move on. Shelly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. I think enabler is the word we were
That
looking
is
for.
absolutely the word I'm looking for. Yes, I was like, oh, it's like ability of nope, that's not it. I was there, but thank you
You were
so
there.
much. So have you heard Tao of the Day before?
I listened in yesterday. This was only my second time. I'm new with the Noom vibe.
Okay, yeah. So what I love to do is just chat a little bit and see what's going on with you. Just really briefly, I just ask a very sort of just random, like, how are you? Like, what's going on in your life today?
Oh, well, we got a lot going on, but I've made some positive changes that I'm working hard on.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh,
So
well, wonderful.
I recently quit smoking.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I am working on um, positive vibes and positive reinforcements just to keep me moving forward.
How long have you been not smoking?
19 days.
Whoa, man, that's good. That's good. And like when I quit smoking, oh, it was so hard. Like I sat in the dark for 3 days. Just
Oh,
like I just I was dating someone and we could not talk. Like I could not, like, just the way that I deal with withdrawal from different things. I mean, I quit using drugs, I quit using alcohol before all that. And so I had known about withdrawal and other things like that, but tobacco was so hard. Oh man. So how are you feeling with it all? How's your body responding? How are you? And I
I,
don't even know if you're
ye-
quitting tobacco or whatnot, but
oh yeah, I'm quitting
okay.
tobacco.
Okay.
And my
Because it
body's
could be crack,
responding.
I suppose. You said
Oh,
smoking. Who knows?
yeah, I'm not smoking crack. Well, it could be, I guess that might help me. Just,
Might help me
just,
get off that Get off that tobacco.
How'd I do that? Okay. So, yeah, this was a health related reason that I had to quit.
Okay.
And I actually, my body within, I could say within 24 hours, my cough diminished, and now my lungs are opened up, and I'm actually able to get air into my system.
Oh,
And
good.
so, and I had to go pretty much cold turkey because I said
Oh, yeah.
I can't exchange one nicotine for another nicotine. So it's like
No.
it's all or nothing, and that's the type of person I am, all or nothing.
Yeah, I had to do most things. Most of the things that I had quit, I had to do cold turkey just because trailing off just gave me routes back, really.
Right, because an addiction's an addiction. If it's the
Yeah,
nicotine, I'm just trading one for another. So
that's right. That's right. Well, the Tao Te Ching, this text that I'm reading from, and I'm going to ask you to pick a number. So think about that for a moment.
okay.
The Tao was a huge part of my recovery from drugs, alcohol, and was a guide through all of my withdrawal and everything like that. And so yeah, I'm really happy that you're with me. I got 23 years clean and sober. I quit smoking probably 13 years ago. So good luck on the journey. It's not easy, and like I quit smoking cigarettes, and then a couple years later I started smoking cigars, and I was just like, oh, I just have one a month, but eventually it turned into one every day, and I would say I have one on the odd occasion, and it was literally every day, and I would just be fooling myself, and then I had to quit again. So it's insidious.
Yes,
All right, so let's pick a number.
29.
29. So 29, and this is going to be really nice, is entitled "Make the World a Better You," and that's what you're doing,
Right.
right? So let's go ahead and read. I'm going to read through this, and then it's not too long. It'll take about a minute and a half, maybe tops. It's not. It looks like maybe 120 words. Do you want to make the world a better place? How arrogant you must be. The world, like you, is sacred and cannot be improved. A force of will would ruin it. If it had a guide, it would be misled. There are times for all things, even this, whatever it happens to be. The Master allows all things to be as they are. They don't want to control them. She simply lets them do what they do. She also does what she does, staying connected to Tao. What stood out to you in that?
The changing of the world, where it was like they're saying that you can't change it, but by changing yourself you can, but
Right.
but not by taking control.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
Like this idea, do you want to make the world a better place? Do you think you're going to go and guide the world to be better because your mind is so much better than like the way the world has gotten here without you, mostly. You've only been around for 20, 30, 40 years. Like what do you know?
Right.
You know? And the world like you is sacred. It can't be improved. How many times have we in our lives had people with good intentions, mind you, wanting to tell us what to do, and we say, you don't know what you're talking about. And we go ahead and do what we do, and because we know what's best for us. Now, even if people have told you, you should quit smoking, and you say, no, get it up, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and smoke anyway. And that's okay, because you're here now, and quitting now is going to be the way that you're going to do it.
Right.
It's not because somebody told you what to do.
Right.
It's not because somebody's sitting here over your shoulder being like, hey, you need to do something. Because You're not going to do it that way. That's not going to motivate you to do it. Okay, it did take you until, like you had physical needs to quit. But now you're making even bigger changes. You're on Noom, you're thinking differently, you're starting to actually change your whole life because you were guided to this point. You didn't try to control it.
Right.
You got here, and who knows where here is going to bring you.
Absolutely.
And this is where these next lines, a force of will would ruin it. Someone has a will over you, right? Like, and they're trying to make you do. That wouldn't be you. That wouldn't be you'd be under the influence of something else.
Right. Just trade one for another.
That's right. And if it had a guide, and it's talking about the world, but it's also talking about, us as individuals in our lives. If it had a guide, it would be misled. We'd be, you are going to, on this journey, are going to interact and engage with specific people that are going to inspire you even further. And if there was somebody else, if like, someone told you, you should quit smoking and you should do it this way and you should do this, like they're shouldn't all over you, and are you going to be doing that from a space of being really present? You're just going to be doing it because it's what someone told you to do. It's going to be rote. You're not going to actually engage in it. And the first moment that person upsets you, you're going to go out and buy yourself a pack of cigarettes.
Right. Because I've done this journey. I started this journey once before.
Yeah.
And I wasn't fully involved in it.
I bet you're involved in it now.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It was just like, I want to live. I don't want to die. I don't want to be supported by other means. I want to be involved.
Yeah. This is it's like it's sacred. Like your life is sacred.
Yes.
And and like, even if, I want everybody to understand that your smoking was inspired by Tao as well as your healing from that now. You and your spirit, however we want to look at it.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. You and your spirit are needed to have that experience of smoking until your life was threatened, so that you could see how special your life was. Not everybody needs that. Not everybody needs to get to that point, but you did. And here you are now. And that's okay. You didn't have to get any worse. This is where you are. And now, this is your, like, in the terms of addiction and stuff, this is your rock bottom. And then you turn.
Right.
Rock bottom is going to look different for everybody. Rock bottom could look like a fluffy pillow to some, but this is what it looks like for you. And so it doesn't matter about comparing. What matters is that this is the moment that you decided to see things differently. You don't have a guide. No one else is over your shoulder telling you what to do, and you don't have to manipulate them, and they're not trying to manipulate you. This is your life, and you're making your decisions.
Right. And I have the support of people that understand me. That makes it easier.
Yes.
If there's such a thing as easier in this journey right now.
There is. There definitely is.
But I make sure that I'm surrounded by people that support me and are going to uplift me in my down moments. And I have phone calls away, Yeah. I'm really wanting that cigarette right now. Let me call you. Yeah. Or this is what triggered that. I'm calling you because you understand that,
And really, those, like, just so you know, the cravings last a very short time relatively.
Mine are more social triggers now. Oh, yeah. I got stressed over this. My normal go-to would be the cigarette. Mm-hmm. So then it's not a craving for the nicotine at this point.
Right.
It's more of what triggered that
Habit.
to cause me to want that. And that's
Yeah.
who I go to if somebody understands that situation.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't envy you your position, but it'll pass over time. Keep those numbers close.
Right. Right. Well, I have to go because I have to get ready for work. But
All right.
Martin, I want to say thank you so much. This has helped me this morning and getting my day started.
Wonderful, Shelley. Good luck moving forward. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Um, Auntie Sparky is going to be coming up.
Hello, long time no see.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I want to try the number 2 for today.
You want to try and know the what for today?
The number 2.
The number 2. Okay. Let's go to number 2. Identifying the manifestation. So what's going on in your life today, Auntie?
I'm just some things, nothing going
Okay.
on in my life.
All right. So we're going to identify the manifestation. Opposites exist among the particular. Identifying the beautiful creates the ugly. Identifying good creates evil. Identifying the particular separates all manifestation. Reality and fantasy are opposing thoughts. Difficult and easy are opposing degrees. Long and short are opposing perceptions of time or space. Because of this, the master doesn't rely on words. She teaches by being without explanation. In this way, she is the most helpful. She inspires all things to be without rejecting them. She gives them life but refuses to possess them. Her actions spring forth from perfection. They are not hers to own. Thus, they will never be forgotten. So that's a little bit longer. What lines or words stood out to you?
That, the, that you gotta, recognize some, things that you're manifesting and noticing things that to know the difference between what I'm manifesting.
Yeah. So that's like this idea of identifying the particular separates all manifestation, right? Like, so once you start identifying, because this one starts, opposites exist among the particular. Anytime you have something particular, you have something that's good. It's like, look, I have this spatula that I like a lot. Well, why do you like it? Well, because it works well. Well, okay, once you recognize a spatula that works well, every other spatula has to be measured against that. And then you have one that doesn't work well. So this is a good spatula, this is a bad spatula. Everything that exists among the particular, opposite will exist. There's
Right,
something that's beautiful. As soon as you see something that's beautiful, you have created something that's ugly. You might not know what that is just yet, but as soon as you recognize it, you'll know.
right.
And so we're creating opposites by identifying particular things. And that's what this next section talks about. Identifying the particular separates all manifestation. Right? Like once I sit here and I say, I can identify you, right? You are now separate from everything else because you're identifiable. You're separate. You have a
Right,
name, right? Auntie
right.
Sparky, right? Like you now know that you exist separately.
My name
The
is actually pronounced Sparkly.
Sparkly. Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry. I missed that. Thank you.
yes,
I did not see
Sparkly.
the See how we identify, particular things. There's an L in
Right.
there, and I didn't identify it.
Yes, Sparkly. Yes, it's a
Sparky.
L
Yeah.
in there.
That's why
Yeah.
I didn't when I brought you up, you were like, long time no see, and I knew your voice, and I was like, oh, I don't remember. And then when you said, when you just reminded me of Sparkly, I was like, I do remember Sparkly. Yes, I do. I
Yes,
definitely
it's
do.
me.
Yeah, I
And
knew.
the
Yeah, from
flesh.
your voice, I knew it was you. And then I was like, but I didn't remember your name. And then I was when you said Sparkly, I was like, oh yeah, that is right, because I remember we talked a while ago.
Yes.
So because of this separation, right? Because of me forgetting the L or not seeing it or whatever, the master doesn't rely on words, because
Hmm.
you are still you, whether I call you Sparky or you are Sparkly, right? Like
Right.
you are still you, no matter what I call you, even though that's a mistake on my end. Like, and then I get to identify with that mistake. And then that's bad, right? Because me saying the right thing would be good. This is how we identify in the manifestation. It's like one's bad, one's good. Actually, it doesn't matter either way. We just had an experience where we got to connect over my mistake. And that's okay,
Yes.
because we
And
got to
that's
connect
okay.
deeper.
Yes, it's okay. It's fine. You made a mistake. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
You made an accident.
Right.
It's
And
okay.
it was innocent on my end, and so
Hmm.
it's not something that I need to hold on to. It's not something that I need to identify as, as particular. I can just like look at it as part of my entire existence. It's just part of it. You're part of my life, and this
Yes.
experience was part of my life.
Yes.
And this is where she teaches without explanation. I don't have to explain why I missed it. I don't have to, how like when you make a mistake, you're like, oh, and I'm a victim of this, or I made a mistake and it's bad. And it's like, no, I made a mistake and I can accept that, and that's okay.
Yes. All is well. All is
That's right.
well.
In this
Yes.
way, she is the most helpful. I don't have to explain it. I can just live here and be connected to you without identifying particularity in between it all. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It is. Just like you aren't good or bad or right or wrong, you are. And just like I am. And then we can love each other from this position.
Okay.
She inspires all things she inspires all things to be without rejecting them. She inspires all things to be without rejecting them. What does that mean to you?
She inspires all things without rejecting them. I mean, she don't like say no to this or say no to that. She just inspires.
Mm-hmm.
She impact people.
Yeah. And there's these two words in there. She inspires all things to be without rejecting them. And that's the important, that those two words, that to be, it's like Shakespeare, to be or not to be. That is the question. But
Like
like,
encouraging someone to be themselves. Like,
yes.
yeah, like, and they don't reject that person. They don't look down on that person. They just help them.
Right. There's no, like, when you are being who you are being the one thing the world needs most. You.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Right.
not trying to be something specific or be something for someone else. You're just being. And by your being, you get to serve the world in the best way possible. In the only way that you actually can. By being you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
She gives them life, but refuses to possess them. So this comes after she inspires all things to be. She gives them life, but refuses to possess them. What do you think that means?
Well, she says, I gave you life, and you're not possessing them. Means you're not going after your dreams. You're not going after your goals and stuff.
Yeah, I was just talking with Shelly, who recently quit smoking, and, by people being around her that inspire her to be herself, by her having people she can call, they are helping her be strong within her life. So they are, in a sense, giving her support in her life, but they don't possess Shelley, right? They are there to just be present for Shelley while she needs a leg up during this time of her quitting smoking. So she gives them life, but she refuses to possess them. Those people that Shelley is turning to, aren't going to try and, hopefully, aren't going to try and get Shelley to be anything other than Shelley wants to be.
Right.
Because that way Shelley can grow as she is without having to be manipulated further into being something other than what she is.
Right.
So then it says, her actions spring forth from perfection. Now, what that line means to me is that she's not thinking about what she's doing too much. She is inspired by Tao. And Tao is helping her give others life, is helping her inspire other things to be as they are without having to think about it. Because if you had to think about it, just like it said in 25 when we were reading that one with Shelley, if it had a guide, it would be misled because you'd be thinking about it. Let me try and plan. You can't plan the universe. Only Tao can do that. Only God can do that. Only Spirit can do that. And that's what's going to guide us. That's the actions spring forth. They come from God. They come from Tao. They come from Spirit. They are not hers to own. This master isn't going to take credit for the life that she is inspiring you to live. She is just going to watch you live it and be glad that you can. Thus, they will never be forgotten. You know, like when you tell somebody what to do and you guide them in that way of telling them what to do, that's one thing. But when you inspire someone to do something and don't take credit, they will remember you. But when you take credit for someone else, they will eventually get a little frustrated and be like, oh, you know, you're not the... Yes, you inspired me to do this, great, but, you know, like, I still was the one that did it. I still had to go, like Shelley, like, with Shelley quitting smoking, she's still the one that has to go through the pain of quitting smoking. If someone on her call list steps up and says, hey, I'm the one that helped you quit smoking, like, Shelley eventually is going to go, forget you, right? Like, I still had to go through it. Yes, you were there for me. And I appreciate that. But don't go taking the jam out of my donut. Like, I'm still the one that did it. Thus, they will never be forgotten. And if they don't take credit, you know, if they allow Shelley the space to grow and the space to quit and they give her the support that she needs, Shelley's never going to forget them. Because they're doing that from a place of love, and Shelley's receiving this and knows that she can't do it alone. We can't do anything alone. That's why we're here. Any other thoughts on this?
No thoughts. I just learned from this, like, that you don't have to change who you are for someone else, and that you can, you know, take advice from people, but don't try to change unless you want to change. And I learned from what you said earlier about, like, people give you advice. They looking out for you, you know what I'm saying? They trying to help you. But it's up to you to, you know, go out there and do what you do. You know, sometimes you give people credit, but, you know, some people could become arrogant. and, you know, they can be like, well, I gave it to you. Yeah, I did that. And then sometimes you be like, oh, please. I didn't need you. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, You can always give somebody credit, but always give credit in a genuine way.
Right, yeah. And I want to bring this back to the beginning. Opposites exist among the particular. Identifying the beautiful creates the ugly. Identifying the good creates evil. It's about being. This is what this is saying. It's not about identifying whether or not you're doing something good or bad, or someone is like, even if you're giving advice, I'm doing something good. Like, right? Like all of a sudden we start to lose our humility when we start to differentiate good and bad, right and wrong, beautiful and ugly. Identifying the particular separates all manifestation. Now, if we remember that you and I are one, there isn't a separation, then anything that you tell me is me telling me. And anything I tell you is you telling you. Because we are connected. It isn't about me and you and right and wrong and different and separate. It's all one thing. And we're here together as one.
Yes.
You know?
Well, thank you for allowing me to come. I have to go eat breakfast. And
All right.
thank
Well, you enjoy
for
your breakfast.
allowing me to come here.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you,
You're
Aunt
welcome.
Sparkly.
All right.
Bye-bye. I'm going to go back to 25. No, it wasn't 25. What was it? 29. Make the world a better you. The one that Shelley read, because we didn't get to the last part of that before I brought up Aunt Sparkly. So, I'm going to reread this, and I want to look at the end of it, because the end of it's really, really special. So, do you want to make the world a better place? How arrogant you must be. First of all, what a great way to start. Do you want to make the world a better place? If someone were to stop there, you'd be like, yes, I want to make the world a better place. Da, da, da. Yes, of course I do. Because the world is a bad place. The world is war and famine and this and that. And then the next line, how arrogant you must be. And then you're like, whoa, I better keep my mouth shut now. Like, let me hold back a little bit. What do you mean? Like how arrogant I must be? But the world is not a great place. And then it says, the world, like you, is sacred. And it cannot be improved. And then you're like, whoa, wait. But the world can be improved. And I look at it and I see it can be improved. But we have to remember the world, like us, can't be improved. It's like, but wait, I can be improved. You can change and you can grow, just like with Shelley, right? Because this is the one that Shelley picked. You can change and you can grow. You can grow out of, something like an addiction or tobacco use or whatever. You can grow out of that. The world, like you, is sacred. So, like, making your own choices is so important, because you make them from the position that you're ready to make them, when you're ready to make them. So you can't be improved, because if you tried to make a decision that you're not ready to make, are you going to actually embody that decision? No. Is it going to be a decision that's going to stay in your life? No, it's just going to stave off the inevitable. So it's so important for us to be able to recognize that the world is in a place that it's at, and it is sacred. It will get through this, just like we will get through our addictions. We will get through our frustrations. We will get over our sadness. We will get over all of those things, because that we are on a path, and that path is bringing us to the space that we are ready to deal with it. Judgment will stagnate that. So the more you judge it, the more you're stagnating your own growth. But so the less you can judge it, the more you can be, like we were talking about in number 2, like having people in your life that inspire you to be rather than to be something specific. A force of will would ruin it, would ruin the world, but it's also referencing would ruin your life. If someone forced their will upon you, would ruin what you're working on, and you wouldn't be able to mature to it in your own way. Of course, that would be inspired as well, but that's a difficult conversation. It's become cyclical. We won't get into that. If it had a guide, it would be misled. There are times for all things, even this, whatever it happens to be. There are times for all things, even this, whatever it happens to be. Right, there's that. There are songs and poems and stories all about, stories in the Bible, even just about like all of the, like, look, there's a time for feast and famine. There's a time for this and that. There's a time for all of these things. Even this, whatever it happens to be. And I love that it's written this way. I mean, I wrote it, but I love that it's written in this way where it's like, even this, whatever this is, right? Even this. And when Shelley hears that, she feels like, oh, even this struggle with this, these habits that I picked up while I was smoking, right? Like I got triggered and I'm going to move into this habit. Even having to deal with this, like this, there is purpose for this. There is a time for this. Getting over that, she's only going to have to do, once, more or less. I mean, some of those habits are going to pop back up in 8 years, and she's going to be like, oh, there's that habit, and I felt like smoking, but I'm not going to do it. Why? Because I've already got this under control. Now we come into the last section that Shelley and I didn't really get to talk about. The master allows all things to be as they are. In Shelley's case, Shelley's going to allow the withdrawal to be as it is. And she's going to have support to help her deal with that. But she's going to allow it to be as it is. She's not going to try and numb it with some other addiction, with some other nicotine patch or something. Right? That's what she was saying. She doesn't want to control them. She doesn't want to control, and when it says them, all things to be as they are, she doesn't want to control them. Now, that doesn't mean she doesn't want to control other people only. It means she doesn't want to even control, the weather, because, I remember when I quit smoking, it was if it was raining, you can look out the window or sit on the stoop and just have a cigarette or have a cigar and listen to the rain and there's something romantic and beautiful about it and stuff like that. And I still want to be able to enjoy those nights, but I don't want to smoke during those nights. So that's a big aspect. She simply lets them do what they do. She lets the night be beautiful, and I don't have to smoke. She lets the moment be what it is, and I don't have to engage it. She also does what she does, staying connected to Tao. What that means is she doesn't let other people try to manipulate her. She, the master, doesn't allow herself to be manipulated. She doesn't allow herself to be convinced that, oh, it is beautiful. She doesn't allow that old mind of hers to go back and say, oh yeah, let's go ahead and smoke because I've been triggered. She lets the trigger be. She observes it, and she allows it to fade away. She lets it be what it is. And she lets herself be what she is. I'm going to go back to 57. We were talking about enabling and Trump and all of this stuff. And this laws are in the heart. Tao governs all things. And this was my choice for today. Tao governs all things by discarding objectives, never possessing or interfering. All things only need abide the law in their heart. In this way, they are free from desire. Let's just look at that for a moment. Tao governs all things by discarding objectives. We all have objectives. It's part of this human experience that we have, right? We want something. Like there's a means to an end to so many of our things. Sometimes we use even people as a means to an end, which is completely unethical, but we do it anyway. Never possessing or interfering. I don't want to possess you. I don't want to interfere with your life. I want your life to be as it is. And if that means it takes you away from me, I want to be grateful for our time together and let you go. All things only need to abide the law in their heart. Everything from plants to you, to me, to your children. We just allow the law in our hearts to follow the needs that they have. In this way, they are free from desire. We don't have desire because my heart will just guide me to the next thing. I don't have to have an objective. I can trust my heart. I can trust the law that was in my heart. I know what to do. And, it's interesting. We were reading earlier about like identifying in chapter 2 with Anne Sparkley. We were reading about, the idea of opposites. They exist among the particular, but there is no particular here. Right? When I abide the law in my heart, there's no good, bad, right, wrong. There's just what is in my heart. There's no identifying separateness. Everything is one. You and I are the same. You and I are experiencing life differently from different perspectives, but we're the same. And the more I can love you, the more love I'm offering myself. And the more you can love me, the more love you're offering yourself. When Tao is ignored, objectives rule the day. Now we start thinking about the idea of like if we step away from Tao, we're starting to look at objectives. We want productivity. We want profit. We want to be right. We want praise. We want attention. We want something out of this. And every time we want something out of this moment, we're ignoring Tao. Because why do you want? What is there to want? You have everything. You've been given the gift of life. Live it. Just live. That's all that you're here to do, is to have this experience. Even the experience of wanting. Like, that's okay. But leaning into that, when Tao, like, you have objectives. Experience what it's like to want instead of letting that want rule the day. Like letting that want drive your actions. Still, allow the actions to come from your inspiration rather than your desires. Now, in a world in which Tao is ignored and objectives rule the day, we're going to go through a couple things that we're going to see if that is the case. If objectives are ruling the day, rules are created that make people expend energy to get around them. I'll tell you, you see it everywhere. The moment you make a rule, people are trying to talk their way out of it. People are trying to find ways to get around it. You make a rule, these things are illegal. Then what happens? We create the dark internet, right? Like before we had dark alleys, now we got the dark web, and it's like just full of illegal activity. Intelligence is praised and rewarded while products become more demonic and intrusive. It's interesting because we all might agree that, intelligence should be praised. But what is the intelligence often engaging? Right? The line before this was rules are created to make people expend energy to get around them. That expending energy is because you're going to be intelligent. You're going to expend energy to be intelligent so that you can get around rules and make products more demonic and intrusive. Tell me our products are not more demonic and intrusive. With all of our cell phones and with all of the tracking and with all of the advertising and with all, that is exactly what we're seeing in the world today. Weapons are paraded, fear spreads, and the hearts of all things close off. And this is what's happening. This is what's happening in the world today. It's definitely what's happening in the United States. It's probably happening in other places as well. As litigation becomes a national focus, politicians and criminals multiply. I don't think I have to say much about that. It's pretty obvious that that's definitely what's happening in our world today. The master needn't engage these traps. She is quiet and people follow their light. She is peaceful and people are compelled to be honest. She does nothing and all things flourish together. You know, I was thinking earlier, I was having a conversation on this program, on Tao of the Day, with somebody, and they criticized something I had said, which is fine. I don't ever really mind. And my response was, okay. And they laughed and they said, okay. And I don't know exactly how it was received, but I never challenge other people on their thoughts. If they have a criticism of what I do, that's fine. I will receive that criticism and I will take it into consideration. If I think it requires further examination, I will do it. Otherwise, I'll let it go. And I'll say, oh, okay, I received that information. I received that criticism. And I could take it to heart if I feel like it's a valid criticism that I want to be able to take to heart. This is what it means by she is quiet and people follow their light. I don't have to challenge this person. And that person who is criticizing me can think about that. Like they can be like, oh, well, he didn't change. Maybe he didn't hear me. Maybe he didn't, like they can make up all of these reasons, but eventually they will look at themselves. Eventually they will follow their own light. And I will follow what is right for me. That again goes to the idea that the law is written in my heart. Right? That's what we're talking about here. She is peaceful and people are compelled to be honest. The more you weaponize things, the more you fight with things, the more people around you are trying to once again get around rules that are made. She does nothing and all things flourish together. She doesn't try and manipulate things and tell them that they're not worthy and tell them that they have to do one thing or another. These are all lies. You don't have to do anything. You're doing fine as you are. You are perfect as you are. You have all of the information that you need within your heart. And as we talk about the Tao, we've talked about this in the past, the idea of it's subtle. When you can become attuned to the subtlety of things, then you can be present with Tao. And you can be present with yourself. You can be as you are. Because the subtlety, the difference between you knowing what to do versus thinking about what you're supposed to do. The last line here says, have no desire and all things will achieve their primal existence. At its core, everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows its role. And so it will fulfill that role. Now you can resist that or you can surrender to it. But it's true, no matter which experience you have. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Martin John, and we have... I do have to do about a hard stop in about 15 minutes, but we're going to be bringing on Monday is my Friday. Is that what I'm saying?
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well.
I just want to say that I've listened to you for a long time, and I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So, what's going on? So Monday is your Friday, so you're finishing off your week. You got a couple more days. You got a couple. This is your hump day. So, what's going on over the next 2 days for you?
Just enjoying life and creating good. So,
Good. Did you want to pick a number?
yes, 45, please.
45. Ooh, beware of words with meaning. So the title of this is Beware of Words with Meaning. It's got 3 sections, so it's a little longer, but not as long as the last one. So let me go ahead and read it to you, and then we'll talk about it. To not define your accomplishments, you will always have patience to spare. To not acknowledge your fullness, you will always have space to spare. When we define something as straight, we see how crooked it is. When we define someone as skilled, we focus on how clumsy they are. When we call a speech eloquent, we notice the stammering therein. The master needn't define things. What they are will arise naturally. By removing herself and her need to know, she can see Tao express itself fully. What do you think?
Kind of like what you said with another person, but like it almost sounds like when you create good, you also create the notion of bad, right?
Yeah. So like once you create the idea that like, oh, this person is this is like when you tell someone, oh, I saw this movie and it's so great, and then you build up their idea about the movie, and then they go see it and they come back, they go, it wasn't that good, and you're like, oh, I screwed up because I didn't allow them to have their experience. I built their idea of the movie up so much that they're actually looking like all they can see are the mistakes. All they can see are the things that are not great because I built it up so much.
Yeah.
When we define something as straight, we see how crooked it is. When you define a movie as great, you see how crappy it is. But it's not crappy. It's just crappy because you defined it as great.
Yeah.
And then, the beginning of this starts to not define your accomplishments. You will always have patience to spare. To not acknowledge your fullness, you will always have space to spare. How does that relate in your mind, do you think?
Oh, man, that's pretty deep. I'm not sure.
Well, once again, it's defining, right? Defining your accomplishments. Like, every time you define an accomplishment, like, you will have patience to spare. So, to not define every time you define an accomplishment, what do you focus on?
How good it was and everything else.
Right, but you also start to see where you haven't accomplished things. Right? You start to like when you say, "Oh, look at all that I did." A week later, you're like, "I did nothing last week." Because you're referencing this moment that you felt so accomplished.
Great point. Yeah.
And then it, like, this is like, as an artist, I had a 20-year art career, and I would call this like after your big art show, like you have this big exposition or whatever, afterwards you just like have this like depression, It's kind of like I associate it to like postpartum depression, where it's just like, you're pregnant. You have all this anticipation, and then all of a sudden there's a baby in your life, and you're no longer pregnant. You're the one that was important for 9 months. Now you're not.
Oh, yeah.
Now the baby is the thing that's important, and it just took the jam out of your donut. Because you have been cared for this whole time, but actually you've been caring for this baby. And it's like the way that attention gets shifted, and the way that like, and there is real depression, but it's also connected to the whole process. That really happens. And it's just like, if I'm, and this is a light case, like if I have a big art show that I'm working on for 6 months, and the art show happens, the next day, I don't know what the hell I do, because I just lived my life for 6 months focused on something that's now over.
Yeah, you were on so much of a high. That,
right. And you had so much focus because you knew exactly what to do, but now you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know? To not define your accomplishments, you will always have, and if you didn't care, if you didn't care about the art show, if you didn't care about the, and when I say not care, it means like you don't have any expectations for it. You don't have any, it's just part of your life. You just look at it like anything. You'd look at it like going to the grocery store. Yeah, it takes me 6 months, but it's just the same. It's just something that I have to do. And you do it. Then you will always have patience to spare. That means if it gets frustrating, it's not going to be frustrating, because it's just going to be like, oh, there's a challenge. I'll meet that challenge just like I met the last one. It's fine. You meet it with this kind of calm, reserved attitude because it's not special.
Yeah.
So to not define your accomplishments, to not define yourself as special, to not define your actions as this is better than last week, or this is better than next week, then you will always have patience to spare. You won't be flailing trying to make everything special. To not acknowledge your fullness, you will have space to spare. And that's all the same. And then it goes into when we define something as straight, we see how crooked it is. Yeah. How is this sitting so far?
I mean, eye-opener, but yeah.
The last lines of these often give us a way to incorporate it, or a little sort of a little ramp to get invited to engage with it. So this one is laid out pretty well, where it's like it starts with facts. It just says, to not define accomplishment, you will always have patience to spare. To not acknowledge your fullness, you will always have space to spare. Those are facts. How you interpret those is going to be up to you. How you engage those is going to be up to you. And then it tells us when we define something as straight, we see how crooked it is. It's starting to show us something that's related to that fact that will help us put it together. When we define something as skilled, we focus on how clumsy they are. And then we start to realize, you know what, that's kind of true. When I told someone about this movie and they didn't like it, I told someone, I remember when I watched Poltergeist, and it's like, oh, Poltergeist was such a great movie when I was 7, and then, but you're explaining it now in your 40s, and it's like you tell someone, and then they watch Poltergeist, they're like, this is goofy. What are you talking about? This movie is a goof. Like, and you're like, oh yeah, like I built it up and all that, and that's what happens, like they're defining this movie in their mind through your words, and then they see it, and they're like, no, that's not what I experienced. And then you watch it as a 45-year-old or whatever, and you're like, oh, this isn't what I remember at all. No, because you remember it as a 7-year-old or whatever, like.
Yeah.
It's like I was amazed by it. Look at the special effects.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta start my day too, so I just want to say I appreciate you very much, and thank you for everything you do.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Okay, I do want to go through the last of this 45. The master needn't define things, right? This is the end, right? The master needn't define things. What they are will arise naturally. Like defining a movie. I don't have to define the movie. You can just see it. I don't have to tell you about my partner and how wonderful they are. If they're wonderful, that'll rise to the top. I don't have to tell you about myself. I don't have to define myself. by removing herself and her thoughts, the master, by removing herself and her ideas about things, and her need to know if something is right or wrong or straight or crooked or eloquent. By removing her need to know that, she can see Tao express itself fully. You can see what a thing is by not defining it. You could be what you are without defining yourself, without identifying with anything, without defining yourself as something specific. That's such an amazing ending, right? The master needn't define things. By not defining them, what they are will arise naturally. By removing herself, her ideas, her need to explain, her need to understand something, she can see Tao express itself fully. She can see this thing as it is completely, without trying to wrap it in her own understanding. The title of this is Beware of Words with Meaning. Because when you start using words to describe things, you start to strip that thing of what it actually is and just start seeing it as what you can understand. And this happens with people, this happens with things, this happens with animals, this happens everywhere. Because we put a definition on it. Thank you guys so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. If you're interested in the text, you can pick up a book through my website, martinjohn.com. You can get the link to that in my profile. Other than that, I am open for you guys to work with. If you're interested in working with me, I work with people in a very specific way. If you're interested in learning about that, I only work with you for 4 sessions. It's very in depth and very much around the idea of recovering yourself, recovering who you are. I don't want to be involved in you trying in you living under the influence of me in any way. So I want to make sure that you are you always. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.